Hello, good evening. How is everyone this evening? Uh, Bay Lady here. Uh, Sharon Schultz is my name, and we are here tonight to do our Titanic Tuesday. Um, we have a few minutes before I start, so just a little bit about the Titanic. I guess I kind of, oh no, this is going to be, why are you going to do this? Mm, um, okay. Hmm. Um, my, I can already see that my equipment will not, cooperate very well. So I'm going to go out and come back in. Don't go away. I shall return. Yes, indeed. Let's hope this does not do that again. Okay, I think I'm still live, am I? Yep, I am. All right. Okay, well, hopefully this will work. My screen was dimming and it's not supposed to do that when I'm using this platform. Technology, it's such a great thing, as long as it works. When it doesn't, not so good. Not so good. So, I guess I became a fan of the story, the mystery of the Titanic, the splendor of the Titanic, the decadence, right? The passengers from every walk of life imaginable, really. Um, Kind of incredible if you think about it, that so many people were together in one place, with not a lot of things in common, but all existing in the same space just the same. The Titanic was really a uh, a great feat of modern technology at the time. They put so much into the ship. There is a museum in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and the Titanic was built in Belfast. And so it's a kind of a fitting place for the museum to be. And it really tells the story of how the Titanic came to be, because it takes place in the place where it was built. It goes into great depth, the museum does, to tell the story of its creation, of the planning and the drawings and the engineering and the construction and the people who had a hand in it, the people who designed the ship and the people who built the ship. And when you finish going through that museum, you have a really impressive idea about this ship. This ship should never have sunk. It should have sailed on, and unfortunately, I guess people can't think of every single circumstance, and there were a lot of factors that went into play. And so the end result, however, was a very tragic disaster. There are other places that tell the story of the Titanic. There is a museum in Cove, Ireland. It was called Queenstown at the time when the Titanic left Southampton with all the well-to-do people, socialites, and business tycoons having boarded the ship. Um, the last stop before they headed out into the ocean was in Ireland, and there they picked up a good many Irish immigrants that were headed for that new life in America. Most of them would be third class passengers, and they were, eager to go. So there is a museum there now. They made they constructed a museum on the spot. Um, that's where the White Star Line offices were. So it's a fitting place for the museum, really, in those buildings. And I can say that I stood in the very spot on the dock where the Irish immigrants would have waited for the small boats, the tenders that would take them out to the ship that was so huge. It was anchored way out at the mouth of the harbor. And I stood in that spot. And so it was very interesting. That museum focused a lot on the Irish passengers. That was like they like same story, but from a different perspective, I guess you could say. There is a Titanic Expo here in Baltimore. It's kind of like a traveling show. I don't think it's just one. I think there's many, and they go all over the country. And now it's Baltimore's turn. So we have what's called Titanic, an immersive voyage, and it's in Baltimore through the end of May. So I recently went. Actually, I went twice. I was impressed. It is a wonderful, wonderful exhibit. So if you're in the Baltimore area, or if you will be in the Baltimore area, the exhibit is very conveniently located in the heart of the downtown area of the Inner Harbor. That's where all the tourist hub kind of is, whatever. But that's where you'll find the exhibit. And as I said, it's very this one is very visual. um all of the museums and the exhibits, you have the story, but you leave with a different perspective on the story, a different direction. And this particular exhibit in Baltimore, where, for instance, Belfast Museum made you know all about the building of the Titanic, how it came about, the construction, okay, the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. The Titanic Museum in Cove, Ireland, leaves you feeling a connection to the Irish immigrants who boarded the ship at that last stop. Now, the exhibition in Baltimore, as I said, it's not a permanent museum. It's a traveling one, but it went in great depth and you left it. This particular exhibit had you feel what the passengers felt. It made you feel. That's the best way I can describe it. It had a lot of uh, VR. It had VR display that was phenomenal. The whole thing was phenomenal. Um, Anywho, so I think we could probably start with the letters now in just a sec. Um, So I don't I don't know if you've seen them on Facebook, but Facebook is advertising the Titanic letters, mystery, intrigue, the untold story, all of that. Well, that's what we have. Okay, that's what we're doing. Um, I have been. It's a subscription, and I have been receiving the letters and saving them for these series of readings here. So I haven't read them myself. So I'm getting the story along with you. So, where we are so far. Well, the first letter that we read was from a lady by the name of Elsie Fairchild. She was writing a letter to her sister. She is in a hotel in Southampton, getting ready to board the Titanic the following day. So that was our first in the series. We read Elsie's letter to her sister. Let me read you about Elsie to refresh everybody's memory. There is Elsie there. There she is, a young lady born in 1888 to prominent New York businessman Arthur Fairchild and his wife Eleanor. Elsie has lived a life steeped in privilege. From a young age, she was groomed for a life of advantageous marriage and social stewardship. However, her father's world of industry and her own sharp, inquisitive mind, further honed at Vassar College, instilled in her a restless spirit. She received a world-class education, becoming fluent in French and Italian, and developed a refined appreciation for literature and the arts. Elsie is known for her quiet intelligence and perceptive nature. She carries herself with an understated elegance, preferring the quiet of an art gallery to the bustle of a grand ball. At 23, Elsie is returning to New York from a grand tour of Europe. She's engaged to the ambitious and handsome Liam Cunningham. Traveling alongside her is her trusted companion and confidant, Laura Flynn. Elsie boards the Titanic not merely as a passenger, but as a woman caught between the expectations of her family, the complexities of her heart, and a future that is vast and uncertain as the Atlantic itself. Does she not remind you of Rose in the movie Titanic, right? Caught between family, engaged to a well-to-do guy. Similarities are there. Okay. The second letter that we read was from Liam Cunningham, Elsie's intended, to Elsie, explaining that he was already aboard the ship and looked forward to seeing her later on that evening. Liam Cunningham is the son of a proud Harlan and Wolff shipwright. Liam grew up not in a grand house, but in the shadow of the colossal Errol gantry, where the thunder of riveting was his childhood lullaby. Unlike his father, who learned his trade on the yard floor, Liam's sharp mind for mathematics earned him a coveted scholarship to study naval architecture at Queen's University. He quickly distinguished himself, and his reputation for meticulous, almost obsessive attention to detail earned him a position in the drawing offices under the legendary Thomas Andrews. His unwavering work ethic earned him a coveted position in the Harland and Wolff Guarantee Group, the elite 9-man team led by Mr. Andrews, tasked with ensuring every system on the Titanic performs flawlessly on her maiden voyage. To Liam, the ship is not just a job, it's the culmination of his life's ambition and a testament to the honor of his trade. The guiding star of Liam's life is his fiancée, the beautiful American socialite, Elsie Fairchild. He boards the Titanic filled with hope. All right, tonight, letter number 3. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Letter number 3. Okay. Oh, this is good. Okay. Letter 3 really isn't a letter. It says, from the diary of Elsie Fairchild, April 10th, 1912. Dear Diary, the ship is underway and I feel I have passed into a dream. My stateroom is a world unto itself, a beautiful and silent cabin of polished walnut, pale silk damask on the walls, and a private wash basin of fine marble. A soft electric lamp with a rose-colored shade glows on my writing table, casting a warm, intimate light on this page. Through the open portal, the salt-scrubbed air is crisp and cold, carrying the endless, rhythmatic whisper of the ocean as the hull cuts through the waves. The only sound from within the ship is the steady, almost silent hum of the engines deep below, a vibration that feels like the breathing of some great sleeping creature. The sheer luxury of it all ought to be a comfort, a sign that I have arrived in a world of effortless grace. This suite, B52, as the brass numbers on the door declare, is more opulent than any hotel room I have ever occupied. The craftsmanship is breathtaking. The walls are paneled in a rich, dark walnut that glows like polished amber in the lamplight, inset with large panels of pale silk woven with a delicate pattern of vines and flowers. The carpet is thick and soft, a deep moss green that muffles every footstep. There is a marble-tipped washstand with its own silver-plated taps, a small writing desk with an accompanying armchair, and a comfortable-looking sofa upholstered in velvet. They have even provided an electric heater, a true novelty, which emits a pleasant, silent warmth. Nora's adjoining room is smaller, of course, but just as well appointed. It is all so perfect, so meticulously planned for a life of ease that it feels unreal, like a stage set for a play in which I have forgotten my lines. Earlier today, I walked through the grand public rooms. In the first-class lounge, an orchestra was playing a light waltz, and people were laughing, sipping tea, and speaking in the low, confident tones of those for whom the world holds no surprises. Everything is a performance of elegance. But even then, I felt a strange sense of unreality, of theatricality. The grandeur felt like a beautiful mask, hiding the colossal, laboring machinery deep in the ship's belly. The hundreds of unseen men toiling in the heat and the dark to make this effortless luxury possible. It was in the lounge that I had my first proper encounter with American socialite and philanthropist Margaret Molly Brown. I had seen her from a distance, of course. She is hard to miss, a vibrant splash of color and sound in a sea of beige propriety. She was telling a story to a small group, something about her husband and a gold mine, and her laughter was so loud and genuine that it made some of the other ladies visibly flinch. She is not a beautiful woman in the classical sense, but she possesses a vitality that is more captivating than any perfect feature. She seems utterly unimpressed by the wealth surrounding her, perhaps because she earned her own. As her audience dispersed, she caught my eye and walked directly over to me, her hand outstretched. "You're Miss Fairchild, aren't you?" she said, her voice full of a warm Western plainness. "I'm Maggie Brown. Don't you let these old peacocks ruffle your feathers, dear. You've got more spark than all of them put together." I was so taken aback by her directness that I could only stammer a thank you. She patted my arm, her gaze surprisingly sharp. "You look like you've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Remember, this big old boat is supposed to be a holiday." With a wink, she was gone, leaving me with the distinct and unsettling feeling that she had seen right through the careful mask that I present to the world. Evening. I had dinner with Liam tonight in the first class dining saloon. To sit across from him in that vast, brilliant white room was to feel a sense of profound and calming rightness. He is so utterly himself, so devoid of artifice. While the tables around us buzzed with talk of money and society, Liam spoke with quiet passion about the ship's electrical system, about the genius of the four massive elevators, a novelty on a liner. Being with him is like being in a safe harbor. His conversation is steady, his affection is unwavering, and his presence is a calming anchor in the turbulent sea of my own emotions. He makes me feel like the best version of myself, the woman that I am supposed to be. After the meal, we walked to the front of the grand staircase. He had to depart for a late night meeting with Mr. Andrews and the rest of the guarantee group, some final check of the engine readings. The orchestra was playing softly in the reception room above, and the light from the great glass dome cast a warm glow upon the carved oak. He took my hands and looked at me with such open, honest devotion. "I am the luckiest man in the world, Elise," he whispered, and he leaned in and gave me a chaste but loving kiss on the cheek. It was a kiss full of promise of shared fortunes and quiet, of shared futures and quiet, respectable happiness. In that moment, everything felt simple. I loved him and he loved me. That was the only truth that mattered. But then he was gone, his purposeful stride carrying him towards his duties, and I was left alone in the echoing grandeur of the staircase. Late evening. I had just returned from a late drink with Preston in the Café Parisien. He insisted. His invitation arrived by way of a steward who approached me with a small silver tray. On it was a single folded note, Preston's handwriting, a simple message, meet me at Café Parisien. And diary, to my eternal shame, some treacherous, self-destructive part of my soul came alive. The calm I had felt with Liam evaporated, replaced by a familiar, thrilling current of dread and desire. I told myself it would be the last time that I would tell him it was over. I lied. With my fiance's loving kiss still warm on my cheek, in my memory, I turned and walked towards my lover. Preston was already waiting for me outside Café Parisien. It is a lovely space designed to invoke the fantasy of a Parisian sidewalk cafe with charming wicker chairs, potted palms, and intricate trellis work covered in ivy that climbs the walls towards the ceiling. The great arched windows, which look out onto the enclosed promenade deck, create the illusion of open air dining, a clever and whimsical touch. He was in his element, of course, charming the waiters in flawless French, greeting other passengers of note by name. He excludes a power that is as natural to him as breathing, and it is a heady, intoxicated thing to be near. From our table, I saw Mr. Benjamin Guggenheim, the great mining tycoon. He was in the company of a very chic and much younger French woman, a singer, I believe Nora said, and not Mrs. Guggenheim. He seemed entirely unconcerned by the whispers and turned heads, laughing and conversing with an air of absolute indifference to the opinions of others. It is a level of freedom that only immense wealth can purchase, I suppose. The freedom to live entirely according to one's own rules. Preston caught my glance and smiled. Benny has always understood that the first rule of power is that the rules do not apply to you, he murmured, his voice a low, persuasive melody against the soft music of the ship's string orchestra playing in a nearby lounge. I also saw the prominent American artist Francis Davis Millett sitting alone at a small table, sketching in a leather-bound book. He has a distinguished, thoughtful face with a tidy white beard and eyes that seem to be taking in every detail of the room and every interaction. He is a celebrated painter, but he seems entirely without ego, a quiet professional observer amidst the boisterous displays of wealth. He was traveling with Major Butt, President Taft's aide, though the major was not with him tonight. There is a sense of quiet dignity about Mr. Millet, a seriousness that I find myself drawn to. He seems to see the world not as a marketplace or a social ladder, but as a subject of endless fascinating study. Preston asked about Liam, a familiar glint of amusement in his eyes. He called him a fine, earnest mechanic and toasted his diligence. There are two types of men in this world, Elise, he said, leaning closer. The men who spend their lives polishing the engine, and the men who own it. Your fiancé is a man of the engine room. We, my dear, are not. And then, diary, he began to speak of the ship. Perhaps it was the brandy, but he began to boast of the brilliant bit of business that made this grand venture so profitable. He talked of outmaneuvering the builders of their unrealistic ideals. He described a partnership with a true pragmatist who understood the realities of the modern marketplace, a man who could streamline the supply chain and make bold, efficient decisions. I must have looked concerned, for I asked him, but were those decisions safe, President Preston? Liam is so proud of the ship's safety. He simply laughed a low, charming sound and patted my hand. My dear, sweet Elise, he said, you are endearingly naive. Safety is a word for the passengers. For men like us, there are only calculated risks and acceptable margins. Nothing truly great is ever built without them. He never said what the decisions were precisely. He spoke only in the grand, vague language of power. A part of me, a dark and shameful part, was mesmerized. This was the world of power he had promised. A world where the rules were bent by clever, powerful men. But then the chill set in. As I sit here now, I hear Liam's faint words of worry from his letters. Compromises some men make for profit. I had thought he meant small things, but Preston was not speaking of small things. His pride was not in the ship's strength, but in its profitability. The choice I thought I was making between two men now feels like something else entirely. It is a choice between two moral universes. Liam's world built on integrity, and Preston's built on secrets and the terrifying belief that his will is powerful enough to bend any law to his own purpose. My love triangle has become a moral compass, and I am standing at the center, spinning. When I returned to my cabin, Nora was waiting. I could not hold it in. My hands were shaking and the words just tumbled out of me. I needed to tell someone, to give voice to the awful knowledge. I trust Nora more than anyone. She is not merely my maid. She is the closest thing to a sister I have ever known. She came to our family when I was 12 and she was 14, a slip of a girl from Cork County, all big, frightened eyes and a fierce, stubborn pride. Her family had lost their farm, and coming to America was her only hope. She could have been resentful of a spoiled girl like me, but she was not. She was my shadow, my protector, and often my conscience. I remember when I was 16, I was infatuated with a young man who was entirely unsuitable, a charming rogue who filled my head with pretty lies. It was Nora Flynn who saw the truth. She came to my room one night and, risking her position entirely, told me plainly, "He's a fool, miss, and he's playing you for one. You are worth more than his empty words." She was the only one who dared to speak the truth to me then, and she has been the only one ever since. Her loyalty is not to my station, but to my soul. It was this history, this deep and abiding trust, that made me confide in her tonight. I told her everything, the boast, the talk of efficiency and calculated risks, Preston's chilling dismissal of the engineer's caution. I expected her to be shocked, but the reality was far worse. She simply went pale, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated fear. She stood for a long moment, her hands clutching a silk scarf she was about to put away. She looked at me, her kind eyes wide with a horror that mirrored and magnified my own. And all she said was, "Oh, miss, that is not the talk of a proud man. That is the talk of a reckless one. And a reckless man with that much power, that is a dangerous thing." And now, as I sit here alone in the quiet, opulent dark, I fear with all my heart that she is right. Interesting, yeah? The plot thickens. The story gets more intense. All right, let's see what we have by way of goodies here. Oh, Molly Brown, here we go. Miss Molly Brown. If I can get her out of this plastic. Now, I wonder if this is the real Molly Brown. I don't know. Every time I think of Molly Brown, I think of the woman who played Molly Brown in the Titanic movie. The big famous Titanic movie. So, let's see. Molly Brown. Shall we read? Margaret Molly Brown. Margaret Tobin Brown is a force of nature, a woman whose boisterous spirit and unflinching honesty are as legendary as the fortune her husband created. Born to poor Irish immigrants in Hannibal, Missouri, Margaret's early life was one of hard work and little luxury. Her world changed forever when her husband, James Joseph (JJ) Brown, a mining engineer, discovered a massive gold ore seam in a Colorado mine. The strike made them fabulously wealthy overnight. Never forgetting her roots, Margaret had dedicated her life and her fortune to activism and philanthropy. Margaret is a tireless champion for workers' rights, women's suffrage, and children's literacy. Her plain-spoken, direct manner and her refusal to conform to the rigid rules of the elite often earn her the scorn of old money society matrons, a fact she seems to find more amusing than insulting. Aboard the Titanic, Margaret is a keen and witty observer of the intricate social web. Unimpressed by titles and unimpeded by decorum, her sharp eyes and ears miss nothing. She sees the world with a clarity that other passengers, blinded by their own privilege, often lack. Well, interesting. And let's see, we have one more thing here. Mm-mm-mm. What is this? This is a stateroom. Oh, okay. This is on, I don't know how well you can see it. This would have been Elisa's stateroom on B deck. What was her cabin number? B-52? Yeah, this would have been her stateroom. Not bad. It looks bigger than my bedroom. Oh yeah. Luxury, right? The lack of luxury. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, here we go. One more cool little thing here. Here we go. Check out the Cafe Parisian. Cafe Parisian. Look at that. Can you imagine? Nice little cafe. All those beautiful people sitting there, just sipping their tea, right? Just like that. Except it's cold now. Okay. The Cafe Parisien. Location B deck, aft, starboard side. We need to know all this because. Okay. Is anybody taking notes out there? Because I'm sure somewhere here there's going to be a mystery to solve. One of the most novel and fashionable features of the Titanic, the Café Parisien is an enchanting space designed to replicate the charm of a Parisian sidewalk cafe. Situated as a sun-drenched annex to the exclusive a la carte restaurant, its most stunning feature is the floor-to-ceiling picture windows that overlook the first-class promenade deck, giving diners the distinct impression of being outdoors while remaining sheltered from the sea air. The room is furnished with charming French-style wicker tables and chairs arranged in intimate groupings for 2 or 4 people. Its walls are covered in intricate green trellis work entwined with climbing ivy and other greenery, creating the fresh, airy atmosphere of a garden terrace. The cafe offers a lighter, more informal dining experience than the grand saloons, serving coffee, drinks, and refreshments to first-class passengers looking for a more private and continental setting. Wow. Well, that was pretty interesting. Okay, so that is all that came with letter number 3. So next Tuesday, we will take a look at letter number 4, see what new characters and new directions that will take us to. If you want to be able to keep up with my tours and be notified when I schedule them, you might want to follow my Facebook page. Follow me on Facebook, The Bay Lady, Sharon Schultz, Sharon Patricia Cunningham Schultz, or The Bay Lady. And also follow me on my YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to that, that is Sharon Schultz, The Bay Lady. So either one, Facebook or YouTube. On my pages, you will see the tours that I have scheduled. You'll also see links to other calendars, visual tour calendars, and other platforms that list my tours on their calendar. They list tours and provide a link so you can, go right to it. Easy peasy. So that's something you might want to consider. Also listed on my pages is a link to Buy Me a Coffee. Buy Me a Coffee is a platform where I can accept tips, gratuities, donations, support, however you want to, whatever you want to call it. It's gratefully accepted at Buy Me a Coffee because I love coffee, can't help it. I don't have many tours scheduled at the moment. As it turns out, I'm known as Sharon Schultz, the Bay Lady, because I live in the Chesapeake Bay area of Maryland. However, that is about to change, and in the next couple of months, I'm going to be moving to Florida to a little community called Perdido Key, hopefully, which is near Pensacola, Florida, in the Panhandle. So this Bay lady is going to transfer her bay down to the Gulf here. And oh my goodness, I will be coming along with some new tours, new places to explore, places I haven't seen. I've got the whole of Pensacola to take you all through, and I'm looking forward to new places, great weather, and just new opportunities. So I hope you all will, as I said, follow me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You don't want to miss any of this. I'll take you all, on a trip to buy a house, whatever it takes. So I hope you'll join me as we start a new chapter down in the land of the endless summer, Florida. Okay, well, it is tomorrow now. Okay, happy Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed this chapter of the Titanic letters, and look forward to the next one next week. Thanks. The reason 11:40, the reason I do this at 11:40, that's the time that the Titanic struck the iceberg. They hit it at 11:40 p.m. So here we are. Use your imagination. Have a good night. See ya.